Live with CDP Sports Talk, a weekly sports and entertainment podcast sponsored by Barry Cullen Chevrolet. Live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and LinkedIn. And on audio via Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, Anchor FM, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Radio Public, and TuneIn. Now, here's your host, Chris Palme.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Season 11, Episode 49, overall 599 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, located at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. Check out their website, barrycullen.com, for the newest selection of new and pre-owned GM vehicles, along with their great selection of all-electric vehicles and Cadillac vehicles as well. You can call the dealership at 519-824-0210 and tell them Chris Palme sent you, or you can email them at info@barrycullen.com. Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership has been family-run and operated here in the city of Guelph since 1969, and they've been a proud sponsor of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show for the past 3 years. I want to give a shout-out to service consultant Greg Smith and mechanic Jim Zettel for looking after my vehicle needs there at Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership. I hope everybody is doing well. I can't believe it's already Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. I'm on my way to Toronto tonight to see the Leafs and the Red Wing game. I know it's preseason, but I'm excited for that. And before we do that, I'm excited about my guest tonight. It's his first appearance on our show. We've talked on Twitter X a few times, and today's guest name is Peter Dyakowski. He's a former CFL player, offensive lineman with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, and for 1 year, the Saskatchewan Roughriders, and now the president and managing director of Hillcrest Properties. And we're going to bring Peter Dyakowski on right now. Good morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for coming on. It's the guests that make the show.
Well, I'll tell you what, just before we get into football, your sponsorship with Barry Cullen reminds me I should mention to our listeners, I'm a car guy as well, and I've had a few GM products that have featured prominently in my life. My very first car was bought in grade 11 for $425, a 1979 Pontiac Firebird. So that's 25 years ago, and it's still sitting right out there in my driveway now, although it's got a very fresh engine, full roller cam. We've got lightweight forged pistons, 30 overbore on the Olds 403. So it's two different GM products in one. So we're running at 408, rebuilt rear end, can chirp the tires on the downshift even at 60. So that one's it looks terrible though, it's all rusty, but that's my very first car was a GM, and my first car here in Hamilton. When I got to town, I didn't have my Firebird up here yet. I'd left it back in Baton Rouge where I went to college. So I bought a 1982 Pontiac Parisienne 4-door blue velour interior, very luxurious. And I drove that one until I ripped a brake caliper off on Burlington Street. If you ever have driven around Hamilton, we got a couple of rough roads.
Oh, absolutely. I know, going to the Tiger Cat games. And by the way, my first vehicle was a 84 Oldsmobile Forenza. And,
nice.
Yes, it lasted a couple of years, but yeah. And I've had GM all my life. I've only had 4 vehicles my whole life. Got to ask you this, Peter. I know these cars today have so much technology and electronics, but do you miss the simpler times of 70s and 80s vehicles?
Oh, yeah. You can pop the hood, tinker on it. I used to do all my own work. I don't do much. I'll do a little bit of tuning and maintenance, but I used to do everything. I rebuilt the rear end on my Firebird in my dorm parking lot in college. So now, my car now, it's very inscrutable. If there were to be an issue, I would be helpless. I'd be at its mercy. So I do like the old ones. But I'm sure the service experience at Barry Cullen Chevrolet leaves nothing to be desired.
Yes, I've been with them for 25 years, and Mark Cullen and Paul Cullen are running the place right now. And late Barry Cullen was an NHL player with the Leafs and the Red Wings and the Buffalo Bisons of the American Hockey League before he retired and started up his car dealership in Guelph in 1969.
The Red Wings, well, maybe that Detroit connection is where he got in with GM. I was just in Detroit yesterday, and I saw the big GM HQ building. Very impressive. But let's talk football.
Yes,
players and cars.
Absolutely, Peter. Hey, thoughts on last week's press conference with CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnston and all the major changes for the 26-2027 seasons? Love to hear your thoughts on that.
I'm still reeling. But like probably everybody, I'm processing it through the 7 stages of grief. And I think this is what the CFL are counting on. They could do anything, no matter how heinous, and people will eventually give in and resign to it. I don't think so. I think I'm going to stop. I'm in the sadness now period. I'm very sad about what's happening, but we're going to hold on to that and try to convince the powers that be that there is another way. They don't have to do this. It's such a travesty to think of our lovely Canadian field losing the 55-yard line. That's one that really hits home for me. One of our distinctive markers of the Canadian game, truly its own entity with our own independent history. We're washing away, 130 years. 130 years, I think we've had the 110-yard fixed distance between goal lines. We're washing away nearly a century and a half of independent history here.
Peter, have you had a chance to talk to new CFL Commissioner Stuart Johnston yet? And if not, what would you say to him as a former CFL player and a fan of the game?
I haven't. I've done a few tweets, and hopefully he's read some of these tweets. I'd like him to. I'd like him to hear from me and from other fans, because that's all I am now. I'm a fan. As an alumnus, I feel like I hold some special part of the history of the game. I gave 11 years of my life to the CFL, and I loved every minute of it. I wouldn't change anything. The Ticats were wonderful for me. Bob Young, terrific caretaker of the Tiger Cats. Love him. I don't know how he feels about these changes. Doesn't change how I feel about him. The Saskatchewan Roughriders gave me a fantastic last year in the league, and now I'm conflicted because it used to be very easy. My favorite Western team was the BC Lions because I grew up in Vancouver, but now I got my Durs. I've got, around my office here, I've got a few mementos from that very, very fun final season. So I love and really cherish my CFL career. And it makes me feel like I have a piece, at least, of the history of the CFL. And it makes me feel maybe a little bit more possessive. I take it maybe a bit more personally when something like this is done. I don't think they need to check with me before they make changes. That's not what I'm saying. But I think what I feel is probably the same that a lot of fans, people who've been going to the games for 30, 40 years, buying season seats, probably are feeling right now. It's a sense of betrayal. It's one thing to make tweaks, to make small changes, to identify a need, make a case, and then make an appropriate change. None of that happened here. There was no consultation, and we've heard from a lot of stakeholders who've said they were blindsided by this. U Sports are now put in a very strange, think about this, the predicament that U Sports and CJFL are placed in, and the high school game in most provinces, not in British Columbia where I played. We've got American rules there, believe it or not. Because of my high school, Vancouver College, when we started our football program, they only had American schools to play. So BC's an outlier, but in every other province, the high school game could be affected. We've got, I believe, 4 facilities in the CFL that are shared with U Sports teams that were all built with government funding, partially or prominently, and were designed to be flexible facilities. So you can't expect the U Sports teams to go find a new home. So what are we going to do? We're going to make the fields changeable then? Are you going to have to flip them back and forth between the sports? Does that mean we're going to maintain a hard point for the old, or I'd say proper, field goal post location? And in that case, is every CFL end zone in those stadiums going to have a pair of divots, one at each end, where that little temporary cover goes on it for a CFL game? Well, that's a health and safety risk for the the players, I think. So there's another thing we can talk about. You got me wound up. What was even your question again? Look at me. See, I'm still worked up. It's been a week and a half, and I can't even think straight. My brain has been fried by the excessive nature of these terrible changes.
Peter, I was going to ask you this question towards the end of our show, but you already brought it up, and I brought it up to other people too. And I'm like, how much of an impact financially will these changes to the CFL affect university and high school football across Canada?
Well, who are they being expected to change? This is the commissioner. He's not just a corporate manager who's going to come in and do a rebrand and shake things up. He is the custodian of a legacy, and also he's the single most prominent individual in Canadian football. That's who the commissioner is. And as that, king of Canadian football, he has a responsibility to all of his subjects and vassals, if you want to think of it that way. The independent organizations, well, they still are in some ways kind of junior to the CFL. So he's going to make a sweeping decision that affects the future of all Canadian football without even consulting with U Sports or CJFL or Football Canada. I don't believe now. Everyone go fact check me on this, because I'm not going to say it's 100%, but I believe I'm 99% certain that Football Canada was not consulted. The national sanctioning body of Canadian football was not. That's something, dear listener, go fact check me, but I'm pretty certain that they were not consulted on this alongside U Sports, who weren't consulted. So they're put in a situation, these municipal facilities are going to have changes made to them to modify and accommodate the new CFL field. Well, are they going to flip them back and forth between CFL and U Sports games? Who pays for the flip back and forth? Is the CFL prepared to bear that cost as part of this? Also, assuming that they're going to be able to twist some arms and get other. I'm sure they would like everyone to fall in line with them. So their expectation was, we're going to make a unilateral decision, and then U Sports will fall in line eventually. They had to anticipate some amount of pushback from the fans and from the other many people. So they're thinking there's going to be grumbling. We'll ride it out. We'll ignore it. We'll pay it lip service, but eventually it goes away. So we're just going to do it. That was the attitude. They're just going to do it, force through this change, and U Sports will eventually have to comply. CJFL will eventually have to comply, because once you've got U Sports, you have many, many facilities across the country that would have to change. And it rapidly affects many different teams, many different leagues. I would love to see U Sports and CJFL and the other age groups and high school levels stick to their guns and say, no, we're going to keep playing Canadian football. So these municipal government-owned facilities, make sure that they're convertible, and we're not going to pay the cost for moving them back from your wonky, weird, tiny field. This is a public facility, and we'll expect to be able to use it. In the case, I think McMahon, is that not owned by the University of Calgary? Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it is.
I believe you're right.
So how are you going to change? Tell them to change it. It's the presumption and entitlement of the Board of Governors and the Commissioner. The buck stops with the Commissioner. Now, again, the stories that are coming out, if you listen to some of the journalists, it sounds like there was a clique in the Board of Governors who really pushed this, and the Commissioner was on board with it 110%. So who was pushing whom? I don't know if the genesis of this idea was the Commissioners, or if the Board of Governors individuals who wanted to push this seized upon the new Commissioner. But I'm sure, and this is not reported on publicly, this is me being rational, that a number of Board of Governors members probably didn't like these changes. They got their arms twisted and kind of dragged along. It's a situation where they're going to do this no matter what. So do you want to be in a 6-3 or a 5-4 minority or a 7-2 minority, or do you just want to be along with us and show, because it'll be much more successful if everyone's aligned? So that's how they have the unanimous support from the Board of Governors to announce. But as for who pays, they probably anticipated that they'll just solve that problem down the road. And, in some cases, it's probably just going to be the facility owners, which is municipal governments.
Peter, I've been a football fan since the late 70s. I grew up in Oakville, loved the Toronto Argonauts. I know the Tiger Cats Argo rivalry, but I always loved the CFL, our university football, and the NFL. I liked each league for their differences. And I feel now, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, that they're trying to Americanize the game to get more younger people to watch it instead of marketing and promoting the athletes more.
It's so frustrating. You and I, who have loved the CFL best, and many fans like us, are being cast aside because they think we'll come back, we'll get over it. And people who don't love the CFL, have never loved the CFL, they're now conceding to everyone on a list, an imaginary list of demands from that hypothetical fan. I don't think it's going to work. I think you said it, differences. The differences are what make the CFL appealing. It sets it apart as our unique game. And I've said this before, to the extent that we have a market in the US, it might be because we're noticeably different. You're going to have the super football fan who can't get enough, who loves the random small schools and will watch Div 3 games. He loves the CFL. The guy who wears the hat of the defunct team or gets the T-shirt of the the old Houston Oilers or something like that loves the CFL. I don't think convergence is going to help us. I'm convinced actually that unless there is some secret undisclosed financial deal already in place or mostly in place, which is possible. I mean, why would the Board of Governors do such an extreme shakeup to our game that's so damaging? So think of all the alienation, all of the relationships burnt by this too, the way they rolled it out. I can't see them doing that without a financial deal of great significance in place or nearly in place. So either there is going to be a very, very big, and it would have to be very big, financial deal that's in place or nearly in place, or the commissioner has terrible judgment. So either there is a very big deal that the commissioner has not been honest about, and if you look at his comments, even though he's now starting to tease, the messaging has changed a little bit. He's starting to tease a little bit more about potential expansion and things like that. But if there's a deal that's nearing completion or nominally in place or even a memorandum of intent or something like that, if that's there, then the commissioner is being extremely dishonest in the presentation of this. And if that's not there, then he's exercised extremely poor judgment in putting us through this in the hopes of maybe landing a big deal down the road. I think that without that big deal, if it doesn't exist, I think these changes are going to be very financially disastrous, as well as just being bad for the game, bad for the history of the game. I think washing away our differences is going to be bad for us. I think the more we look like the NFL, the less Canadian that we are, the less unique and distinctive we are, the less a fan has to attract them to our game. Why not just watch the Bills? They're just down the road. For someone in St. Catharines, the Bills are closer even than Hamilton, or it's about equidistant, I guess. Yeah. But you can get cheap gas. If you go down to a Bills game, you can fill up with cheap gas. It saves like 15, 20 cents a liter. So you've got that. So I don't think it's going to really be successful. I'm talking to people in the real world. It's running like 80-20. I'm talking to football people. I'm talking to non-football people. 80-20 don't like the changes. I've talked to a couple of people who do like the changes. Some cases are already committed fans. And in other cases, I don't see them buying tickets. I'll believe it when I see it. There's a lot of people in Vancouver that we'd love to buy Lions tickets. They'll spend $400 on a bus trip down to a Seahawks game. They might go to one Lions game a year. I don't think making the Lions more like the NFL or in terms of the rules is going to attract that person. We've got a bit of an inferiority complex in Canada. We love the the size and the splash and the grandeur of the U.S. pro sports and the numbers involved and the money involved. Again, without that money, I don't, either there's a secret deal that's not being disclosed, that's bad, or it's not there at all, which is also really awful. So that's my long answer to your short question.
Hey, Peter, I've noticed in my 50 plus years on this earth, every football league that's tried to be like the NFL has failed miserably. That's one of my concerns. And also, as well, is I love the CFL. And one of the things I love about it is the 55-yard line, like we mentioned, but also when somebody misses a field goal, the excitement of somebody taking that ball out of the end zone and possibly returning it for a touchdown. It's one of the most exciting plays in football.
We've changed so many calculations around gameplay with this, because we've now changed the cost of different actions, the calculation around a field goal, the distances required, the down and distances required for different decisions to make sense. We've completely taken away the rouge, which is a reward for gaining field position that punishes a bad defense, but also changes calculations in red zone decision making and game planning. We've made so many changes. It's very difficult to predict exactly how they work, but from all of the smartest football people that I've talked to, everyone is expecting scoring to go down. We were told that this was needed to drive scoring up. Well, we're at a historic modern high in the last 20 years, or last 18 years. We're at an 18-year high for scoring right now. Where is the demand? Who's calling for these changes? Who's saying that we need more scoring? It's not the case. So that's a very false argument and narrative for the commissioner to be presenting. It seems disingenuous. Anyone with some rational thinking capacity is going to see right through it. So it's almost insulting that he expects us to buy that. But I think we're going to see scoring go down. We're going to see fewer field goals. You'll see way fewer rouges. You'll see less excitement. There's going to be less tension in certain scenarios. The clock change. You're going to see the clock killed a lot faster. There's now less football in the final 3 minutes. And in the CFL, we used to say no lead is safe. And now
to zero seconds.
Yeah. So it's not, these changes aren't about the gameplay. Every receiver I talk to, and we're talking about 1,000-yard a season receivers. We're talking about Grey Cup receivers. I asked them, I said, you're an expert at that particular domain. Does shrinking the end zone by 25% mean you're going to score more touchdowns? And they just laugh. They laugh. I said, well, what about getting the goalposts out of the way? They laugh. Like, if anything, the receiver is able to use the goalpost as a pick. It helps him with running his routes. Middle of the field is the least targeted zone of the field anyways. And that's true in the open field, let alone in the end zone when you're running out of space behind. So this is not about making the game more exciting or increasing scoring. It's going to reduce scoring. It's going to make the game less exciting. This is all about convergence with the NFL or UFL. Pick one, but there's not a single change that makes us more distinct. And I'm not anti-change. I am open to changes. If you want to talk to me about the way the 20-second clock works and we want to crispen up substitutions and make the game flow better, talk to me. If we're talking about the sidelines, if you can really, I'm not convinced that we've got a huge substitution issue in red zone situations. And it's definitely not a competitiveness problem, because over the course of the season, if you're sharing sidelines, you'll be inconvenienced by it as much as your opponent is, and then you're therefore helped. But if we want to swap the sidelines because we're going to make substitutions smoother in the red zone and make the game move faster, hey, let's talk about that. The Rules Committee has deliberated on a number of these questions, and they were bypassed. And that's really shocking as well, and extremely disrespectful to your coaches and your experts on the Rules Committee that you're going to bypass them with these important decisions.
Peter, I wanted to ask you this too. I've talked to a few kickers and stuff like that. kickers are going to be impacted, like the field goal kickers, the punting people, the special teams. And also, I wanted to get your perspective, Peter. You played in the league for 11 years. I'm just a media and a lifelong fan. How many games were decided by a football hitting the goalposts? Because they're saying, oh, we've lost a lot of games because of that bloody goalpost at the front of the goal line. That's why we're moving it to the back of the end zone. What do you say to those people?
I think as far as games decided, a lot of people have had to go back to, I think, 94 to a playoff game in Winnipeg that got decided by a ball hitting a post. I've seen the ball hit the post a few times, and I played 180 games, 11 years, 100. Wow. I had 180 games, and the goal. It's actually surprising. It's not like if you're maybe new to the game and you only watch the American game, you see the goalpost, you think it gets in the way. I don't think it's an impediment, and coaches certainly never allow it to be an excuse. As a quarterback, as a receiver, you are expected to navigate that zone of the field just fine. And our quarterbacks, to their credit, do a fantastic job. Do you slightly open up that little particular area? Sure, maybe, but how important is that? And what's the actual increase going to be? And what touchdown passes will go there that weren't just going to go to one of the sidelines? The net benefit is extremely small. And if there's any difference now that we weren't noticing in the past, well, let's look at 2022. We brought the hashes way in. And if now the goalpost is a little bit more on the way, it's because we made a big change with the hashes, which, by the way, I'm an anti-change guy. I was open to that. I didn't like it. I think it looks ridiculous. We got these silly narrow hashes. It seems like overall, it's helped. It's played a role in the recent increase in scoring. However, maybe not quite in the way it was expected to, and there's definitely been unintended consequences. And if now in very recent years they think that the goalposts are a little bit more in the way, it's probably because we squished the hashes in and we're now lining up the offense right in front where almost every play will take place from one hash or the other. So usually you're well away. So that's something to think about. These changes are not well thought out. There's going to be massive implications to how the game is played, massive. And you want your football experts to be discussing it and working it out, and they bypass them. That was arrogance. That presumptiveness that they could just do whatever they want. They don't have to care at all about their stakeholders. It's shocking. Like, you have a panel of the greatest football minds in the country on your rules committee, and you're gonna skip them. You're gonna skip them to do this and have zero thought about the implications on the game. So we're going to see, I think, a decline in excitement, a decline in scoring. We're going to see different decisions being made. I think a lot more short field punts. We're going to be watching punts from the 30 now. This is maybe we'll see a few more third down gambles, right? You'll probably see a few more third down gambles, but how many more of those versus how many more punts? So we got that. It's disappointing, and they're saying, well, let's see. We're just going to try it. We're going to take a huge risk with the game, massive upheaval, and we'll see if it works. I'm not going to give it'd be very convenient if it worked out. If my 7-year-old daughter knew how to drive a car because I could send her to the grocery store, it would take a lot off of me. I'm not going to give her the keys and see if it works. Prudence. When you're a caretaker of a national institution, there's great value in prudence. And this Commissioner Stuart Johnston is extremely imprudent.
To me, this could be a desperation move, in my opinion. I got to ask you this, too, and I have a viewer. I got to let you go, Peter. I know we're short on time. A viewer, Robbie Schneider, he's from Buffalo, New York, and myself and my co-host Nick on our Argo Bounce podcast show got Robbie to watch the CFL, and he likes it. And then Robbie says, I'm still learning about the CFL and its rules. It's definitely different than the NFL, but he seems to enjoy it. And I know people over in the States that like our game for what it is.
Thank you, Robbie. I just pulled up the comments now. So hold on, before I go, we got to address a couple of these comments. George Brown says the Ticats suck. Absolutely not. I'm not going to let that stand. I love my Ticats. It's the Argos, of course, who suck. You can go to any Ticats game and ask the fans. They'll explain that to you in detail. Shame on you, George. But back to Robbie. Well, he's saying Gore goes as well. Come on. If he's in Buffalo, he's got to be a Ticats fan. That's his natural. If you're in Buffalo, you're not. Thank you, John. We all love the CFL. That's why we're here, and that's why I care. I care about these changes because of love. Love the game. I love what it did for me, for my family. I love going to the games. I love the history. I love being on our alumni now with the Tiger Cats. We've got a little alumni association, nice group of guys. But back to Robbie and the differences. The differences really set the CFL apart and give us space in the American market. You said it earlier, every single U.S. league that's tried in the last half century to pop up and copy the NFL has failed. They have a 100% failure rate, because if you want pro football and you're in the world's most football crazy country, just watch the NFL. It's a great product. And the idea that we're going to bail out the UFL, because that's one of the conspiracy theories, that there's the convergence for that reason. Why are we going to go bail out another failing league? The UFL is a failing league that's destined to fail, that is going to follow in the failing footsteps of every pro football league in America that is not called the NFL. So the UFL is a failing league, and we're going to bail them out. We're going to sacrifice our game and put it at grave risk to bail out someone else's investment. To me, that's crazy. That's crazy. It's irresponsible. If you look at how damaging to the CFL the implosion of the U.S. expansion was in the early 90s, this is going to be worse. It's potentially going to be very devastating. Now, the thing is, the CFL will endure. Everyone who says the teams are on the verge of bankruptcy, well, that's not true. First off, that's not, you can just look what's public, what's out there, and you can see many great signs of health that historically have indicated that your franchise is not going to fail. So there's no imminent failure of clubs. There's nothing like that driving it. We're going to see, though, devastating effects on the game. We're going to lose our Canadian identity. We're going to lose our core fan base, potentially. I hope not, but potentially. And then the American experiment that we engage in, whatever that's going to be, because it hasn't been disclosed yet, will fail. And so that failure might take, a year, might take a couple of years or a few years. But when it does, that collapse and implosion will be extremely devastating for the CFL. But the CFL will endure. The CFL will persevere. It's a lot older than Stuart Johnston. It's been around before him. It'll be around after him. We're going to need a new commissioner who's going to come in and restore the league. It'll be called the Restoration. And you're going to have a restoration of the CFL, a re-embrace of what makes it special and different, and its Canadian identity. And that's going to attract American viewers, because people like something that's neat, something that's different. And George, I'm sorry, George, about the Battlehawks. I think the Battlehawks should make a bigger field, get a 110-yard field with 20-yard end zones, 65 yards wide, goalposts in the correct location. Then let's talk about them. We got St. Louis. It's always fun to talk about American expansion. What about Rochester? I was just thinking the other day, I haven't used a brain cell in my life to think about Rochester, New York, and it's just down the road. It's so close. It's right across the lake from Toronto. It's like 1 million people. Headquarters of Kodak, which is not what it was, but was once one of the world's biggest companies. Tremendous wealth from Kodak's heyday still in that city. Rochester would be great. What about Boise, Idaho? That's a pretty big census area. Portland, Oregon. Great big city. I know Portland's maybe got some problems, but they've got an NBA team. That would be a terrific rivalry with the Lions. So you could have Portland, you could have Boise. You could have the Battlehawks. You could have Rochester, maybe Milwaukee. There's a few. You can have a lot of fun with that, but they've got to be on a 110-yard field with 20 yards. They got to figure it out. You're going to have to figure it out. Although we can accept wonky end zones. I don't mind having wonky end zones. I think in the big stadiums, Edmonton, Calgary, the big Western ones with the space, go to 25-yard end zones like they used to be before. I think it was 1982. They brought them in for BC Place. Well, no, we have inconsistent end zones. You can have 25-yard end zones. I think that'd be great.
And George is from St. Louis, by the way. I met him on the GO train, and I asked him, "Why are you from St. Louis coming to an Argos game?" So I actually interviewed him, and he likes the CFL because of he likes the game the way it is, and that's why he became an Argos fan.
Well, so it's different. So coming back to the idea,
yeah.
it's something different. It sets it apart, and there is a fan. There's a market for that. I said on another show, I joked, Weird Al sells out concerts coast to coast. I've been to one. There's a market for something that's different, for something that's quirky, and we just got to face it. That's what we are. In the United States, the red-blooded American steak and potatoes choice is the NFL, right? And you're going to go and look at the CFL if you also want to have something quirky, something that's a little bit different. And that's a space for us. If we try to take the NFL's market share, it's not going to work. Let's be who we are. Let's just be really, really good at being who we are. And that was the original CFL 2.0 that Randy Ambrosi introduced before we had the Mexico, before we had the Global, before we had Genius. It was all about just implementing standardized best modern business practices between all the clubs. It was taking the league as a franchisor-franchisee relationship, and that CFL 2.0 has been working quietly. It's not flashy. We've been distracted by all the other things. But that effort, if that had been the sole focus of the league for the last, when it was announced, 2017, 8 years, something like that, we'd be far better for it. One last question. I do have to jump off. I've got an 11:45. But Edward is asking about my LSU days. Go Tigers! Yes. And teammates Matt Flynn and Dwayne Bowe. Great days. Matt and I were roommates for 4 years. We had a tremendous amount of fun. Love the guy. Incredible athlete and very, very gifted. Led the Tigers to a national championship the year after I left. I blocked my senior year for Jamarcus Russell, first overall draft pick. And I just want to point out that while protected by our O-line at LSU, which included yours truly at right tackle, he was a first overall draft pick, and they gave him $35 million. He looked so good. And then he went to Oakland. He just didn't have that O-line anymore. That's all it is. There's a few other things. And Dwayne Bowe, I might be getting the story wrong, so apologies, Dwayne, if it's slightly inaccurate. But I believe Dwayne, great athlete, by the way, he could do like a standing flip, standing backflip, like just incredible athlete, great receiver. And, for him, Jamarcus, send the ball downfield. We were down by 10 in Tennessee in the fourth quarter. No one was worried. We came back. We won it. It was the best. It was awesome. This is at, is it Neyland Stadium in Tennessee? Anyways, that was an awesome one. But Dwayne, I think the team got him LASIK between his maybe sophomore and junior years, or between something like that. And he went from a great athlete and a good receiver to an excellent receiver. And it was the LASIK that played a role. And it's just the team had brought in an optician, an eye doctor to check us all out. They had us all doing all these different tests back then. But no, LSU was awesome. Dwayne was just incredibly gifted. We had a ton of great receivers too, but Dwayne was definitely, head and shoulders, just incredible. First round draft pick. Lots of great memories from LSU. It was a big change going from Vancouver down there. Terrific. Until I got the call from Nick Saban, I thought I might be a UBC Thunderbird. So big change. And now I'll be back down every now and again for, the weddings are all done now. Maybe a second wedding, but I think everyone's doing well. I think they're all, those are all happy marriages, but you never know. But we had a reunion. We had a class reunion, 20-year reunion for our 2003 national championship. So I was down 2 years ago for that. That was nice to see. Nice to see everybody. But I do have to
get going, Peter.
Go here, but I really appreciate you having me on. It's been fun.
Yes.
I also thank you for letting me share my thoughts here. Share my thoughts, share my opinion on something that I love, Chris, something that I feel so strongly about. And I appreciate you also fostering an open forum.
That's what I do. You have an invite to come back on a second time, because I would like to ask you about maybe how the timing of all this started, the Argos and the Bills and MLSE and their little deal, and then all these changes. It just seems kind of odd that they all happen in the same time frame.
Get your tinfoil hat on. But I will close. I still love my Tiger Cats. Aski wee wee. I feel very, very good about them this weekend. I feel very good about them in Winnipeg, and I really want them to win what might sadly be the last true
Grey Cup
Canadian Football Championship Grey Cup. Because technically, the Grey Cup's for the Canadian Football Champion. If we're not playing Canadian football anymore, the Vanier Cup winner should get the Grey Cup, or even you get the Vanier Cup winner and the CJFL Canadian Bowl winner. They play a game, and then that winner gets the Grey Cup. That's really what should happen if the CFL decides it doesn't want to play Canadian football anymore. But anyways,
and I will be at the game on Saturday as media, so I will have Argo Tiger Cat media footage here as well, Peter. I definitely would like to have you come back on again when your schedule allows it and talk a little bit more as well about all these changes.
All right, would be happy to be back on. Thanks for having me, and thanks everybody for the comments and the questions.
Thank you so much, Peter. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thanks. All right, everyone, that wraps up Season 11, Episode 49, overall 599 of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership here in Guelph. And that was Peter Dyakowski, former offensive lineman with the Hamilton Tiger Cats from 2006 to 2016. And then he played his final year in Saskatchewan in 2017. So Peter just came on and talked about his opinions and views on the changes going on with the Canadian Football League in 2026 and 2027. And speaking of that, I'm going to show you guys a little clip. This clip is courtesy of CBC News. I do not own the right to this clip, but this clip is from CBC News, and it's just about the CFL's major changes they announced a week ago.
Canadian football is set to look a little more American, with the CFL announcing adjustments, bringing the league more in line with its mega popular rival, the NFL.
These types of idiosyncrasies have been in our game for a long time, but that doesn't have to be the case.
The changes will mean the CFL playing field gets shorter, down to 100 yards in length, just like the NFL. The end zones will be cut from 20 to 15 yards, but the Canadian field keeps its unique width, still 65 yards and wider than in the American game.
2 touchdowns and referee on the night.
The most visible change, though, comes to CFL goalposts, soon moved to the back of the end zone, just like south of the border.
To what extent are these changes due to the popularity of the NFL in Canada?
Absolutely no percentage of these changes were made because of any type of comparison to the NFL.
You don't want to just stand still and become stagnant, right? And so they're making changes that will augment the league.
Canadian gridiron purists took to social media, declaring tradition was just thrown out the window, and what made the CFL unique is no more.
It Americanizes and see that the stage is being set for further convergence with American leagues.
The Canadians seek to make life drive a more exciting game that now often appeals to an aging audience.
And it's just that if is to remain relevant, particularly with Gen Zs, it has to do this.
The tweaks won't come into effect this year, but will be phased in by 2027. The league expects the changes to the goalpost alone will lead to an extra.
That clip was courtesy of CBC News, and I do not own the rights to that, so I just wanted to play a little clip of that. And again, I want to say thank you to Peter Dyakowski, the former offensive lineman for the Hamilton Tiger Cats, Saskatchewan Roughriders, and he was involved with the CFLPA for a long time, and now a CFL alumni from coming on here as well. The next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by BarryCullen.com, is going to take place on Monday, October 6th at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific Standard Time, with special guest, her first appearance, Danielle Janine. She is a self-taught actress from California. So check out Danielle Janine, my next guest on Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show this Monday, October 6th at 4 o'clock. The next Argo Bounce podcast show with Nick Small and myself, episode 13, will take place next week, and Nick and I will break down the Argos Hamilton game this Saturday at 3 o'clock at BMO Field. It is Buffalo Bills Day at BMO Field. They will have Jim Kelly and Doug Flutie at the game signing autographs before the game, and they will be giving out Doug Flutie Argo Bills commemorative t-shirts as well. If you want to go to this game, you can get tickets through argonauts.ca, single game tickets. And if you can't get down to BMO Field, you can watch the game on TSN or TSN 1050 the radio with Mike Hogan and Ben Grant with the call. Or if you're a Hamilton Tiger Cats fan, you can listen to the Tiger Cats audio network with Rick Zamperin and Simone Lawrence as well. Pre-game will be for Toronto at 2:30, for the Hamilton Tiger Cats 2 o'clock on the Tiger Cats audio network. And as always, I want to say thank you everybody for watching our show today. Again, you can follow Peter Dyakowski on LinkedIn. Go to LinkedIn and type in Peter Dyakowski, and he's also on X as Peter Dyakowski if you'd like to follow him as well. For Toronto Argonauts season tickets in 2026, you can contact Toronto Argonauts account coordinator Jada Christian at 416-815-6139, or you can email her Jada.Christian at mlse.com. And as we wrap up this show, as always, at Barry Cullen Chevrolet right now, book now and save on your tire changeover. Save $20 on your off the rims tire changeover, or save $10 on your on rims tire changeover. More details at barrycullen.com, or visit them at 905 Woodlawn Road West in the Guelph Auto Mall. This offer ends on October 31st, 2025. You can get a personalized video message from yours truly. Go to cameo.com, type in Chris Pame, and book your cameo today. You can now follow this content creator on Blue Sky Social at Live with CDP19 on Blue Sky Social. You're looking to adopt a pet, check out the Cambridge District Humane Society at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge, Ontario. Telephone number 519-623-7722, extension 0, or visit their website at cambridgehumanesociety.org. All the animals and pets that are up for adoption, their profiles are on cambridgehumanesociety.org, and the staff and Michelle Glatley, the executive director, and the entire staff do a wonderful job in taking care of our homely furry friends and making sure they get adopted into good homes with good families as well. The Cambridge District Humane Society.org, or pop by the location, which is right across from the Cambridge Centre Mall at 1650 Dunbar Road in Cambridge. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show is live streamed on these platforms: YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, Twitch, LinkedIn, and now available on Instagram. You can view my website at beacons.ai/Chris D. Pame. You can also follow me, this content creator, on TikTok at Chris Pame. And I want to say thank you to my over 1,000 followers on TikTok, and I do post a lot of content there as well. And I will be at the Toronto Maple Leafs Red Wings game tonight at Scotiabank Arena at 7 o'clock. Thanks to former Woodbine, thank you to former Woodbine CEO and now COO with Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment, Nick Eves. Thank you so much for this opportunity, and look forward to the Leafs Red Wings game tonight at the Scotiabank Arena at 7 o'clock. So make sure you check out my social media pages for pictures, videos, and maybe, who knows, maybe I'll do an interview as well. So Leafs Red Wings tonight, 7 o'clock. And I want to say thank you again to Maple Leaf Sports and Entertainment's Nick Eves for the tickets. I really appreciate it. And Nick is one of the good guys in the industry. StreamYard is the official live stream provider of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. If you're into webinars or live streaming or podcasting, go to StreamYard.com. I've been with StreamYard for 4.5 years. And for businesses, go to StreamYard.com and contact their sales department for pricing as well. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. The audio version is on these platforms: iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Spotify for podcasters, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Pocket Casts, Spotify, Castbox, LinkedIn, Pandora, TuneIn, YouTube Music, and Good Pods. Please remember to subscribe, follow, and share there as well. Finally, you guys can email Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show at cpame19@gmail.com. Any comments, questions, suggestions, feedback would be greatly appreciated. And also, if you'd like to contribute to my YouTube channel and my 3 talk shows, you really enjoy my content, I am on PayPal, Chris Pame, cpame19@gmail.com on PayPal if you'd like to support my content. And I do produce a lot of good content as well. You can follow me on Facebook, Twitter X, Threads, Instagram, LinkedIn, Blue Sky Social, everywhere except Snapchat, Blue Sky Social at Live with CDP19. And also, I want to say thank you to my subscribers and viewers on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't subscribed, check out my YouTube channel, Chris Pame, Live with CDP Talk Show on YouTube. Hit subscribe, share, and follow. And I do post a lot of content there. I have over 3,500 videos, including a lot of YouTube shorts there as well. And before we wrap up the show, guys, I have one more comment. And George Brown, who's from Missouri, outside of St. Louis, I do believe Baltimore CFL team was instrumental in bringing back the NFL to Baltimore. I agree. And I want to say thank you to Edward Hearn and George Brown and Robbie Schneider for their questions too. George Brown's last comment, go Wings. It should be a good game tonight. It's getting to the end of preseason, so this is one of the last preseason games. The NHL regular season starts next week, and I believe the Leafs are taking on the Montreal Canadiens at the Scotiabank Arena for their home opener on October 8th as well. And that is about it. Again, I want to say thank you to my guest today, Peter Dyakowski. He's also the president and manager director with Hillcrest Properties, and he's a CFL alumni. Played 11 years in the CFL, 10 with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, 1 with the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So thank you to Peter Dyakowski. And again, my next Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show by BarryCullen.com is going to take place Monday, October 6th, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 on the West Coast, with actress Danielle Janine. So check Daniel Janine out, and I'm working on more shows for next week as well. Again, I want to say thank you to my sponsor, Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership, and thank you everyone watching this live stream and on my audio platforms, and we will talk to you guys on Monday at 4 o'clock. And make sure, again, you check out my social media pages for my Leafs Red Wings content from tonight's game at Scotiabank Arena in Toronto. And I will be doing freelance media work covering the Argos Hamilton Tiger Cats game Saturday at 3 o'clock. It will be the Argos' last home game of the year. And at 5-10, it doesn't look like they're going to be in the playoffs this year as well. But come down and see Doug Flutie, Jim Kelly, and get yourself a Doug Flutie t-shirt as well. First 7,500 fans get a free t-shirt as well. I hope everybody has a great day. I'm off to Toronto this afternoon, and we'll see you back here Monday at 4 o'clock for Live with CDP Sports Entertainment Talk Show. I will be on another podcast tomorrow, Friday, October 3rd, 7 o'clock Eastern. I will be on Nikki Styles Baker's Facebook podcast show at 7 o'clock. So look for me on her show tomorrow night at 7 o'clock as a guest. And Major League Baseball, Tigers, Guardians today, 108, Game 3. The winner advances to the ALDSC against the Seattle Mariners, and the loser is eliminated. And it doesn't look good for the Tigers when they have Jack Flaherty on today. Is a good Jack Flaherty going to show up, or he's going to help the Tigers win this game? Or is the bad Jack Flaherty going to show up and the Guardians are going to have this game won by the 3rd inning? So Tigers, Guardians today, first pitch at 108 from Progressive Field. And Yankees and Red Sox will be playing tonight too, Game 3, and the Padres and Cubs as well. And congrats to the Dodgers, who swept the Reds last night. So the Dodgers are going to the NLDS starting Friday night against the Philadelphia Phillies as well. Anyways, have a great afternoon, everybody, and we'll see you on Monday for another edition of Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, brought to you by Barry Cullen Chevrolet Dealership.